Welcome, everybody. I am excited to share with you tonight about the 7 stages of wealth. For those of you I have not yet met, my name is Mary Amoido, and together with my incredible husband, Richard, we are the co-founders of Investor Next Door Club, and we host these master classes every single week to give our community and their community an opportunity to just peek behind the curtain a little bit to see the types of information that we share with our community. And so we're going to go ahead and dive in tonight into the 7 stages of wealth. And I'll tell you, for a lot of people, this kind of information is a little depressing, but I'm going to tell you right now, no matter where you are, it's good news because I'm going to share with you a roadmap of how to get from wherever you are to where you want to be. This is not eat the elephant in one sitting. It's eat the elephant one bite at a time. And so one of the things you're going to see in this is that you are not alone and you are not the only one dealing with this. So we're going to go through each one of these 7 stages. And some of you might not realize that there are actually 7 stages of wealth. So the first stage, we're going to start at the very bottom. That's survival. That's where your bills are tight, you have little to no emergency fund, and you're often carrying high interest debt, which you may feel like this is not a good place to be, but I'll tell you, the vast majority of Americans are there. The second step is stability. You've got 1 to 3 months of emergency funds. You've actually got your high interest debt under control and you're actively paying that off. And then the third step is security. You've got 6 to 12 months of an emergency fund in place, and all of your savings and your investing is fully automated. So that's just security. Now, flexibility is where it starts to get interesting. You've got your savings rate plus your growing nest egg means your actual work, your job can start to downshift without derailing your retirement. That's where it starts to really get exciting. Now, where most people strive to be is at independence, where your passive or your portfolio income covers your basic living expenses. So now you become job optional. Your work is now an option for you. It's not a necessity, but you still don't have the space to have all the fun things, which is really where you want to get to step 6, which was freedom. Your portfolio income covers your basic expenses plus all the extras. It covers for your travel, it covers upgrade, it covers your lifestyle. But the ultimate pinnacle of wealth is abundance. It's that 7th stage where that goes far beyond your needs. This is where you can make incredible impact. This is where your goals become about giving, not about how much money you make or not about your portfolio. This is where you start to have some multi-generational legacy planning where you can create a future for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and hopefully for your great-great-grandchildren. So we're going to go through each one of these stages, and we're going to talk about what each stage really means, and more importantly, what you need to do to move from one stage to the next stage. Real application of how to get from one place to the next. You don't move from one place to the next on accident. It has to be done on purpose. Because what I've seen that happens for people is if they don't learn the skill sets at the stage of, let's say, security or flexibility, they don't learn those skill sets, then what eventually happens is they slide back down to stability or survival. And I've seen it over and over again. People go up the steps and they slide back down because they don't have mastery of anything at the next step. So here's the first one. This is survival. And what I want you to understand is if this is where you are, you're not behind. This is just the starting line. So this is where you're probably feeling you're living paycheck to paycheck, and financial stress is literally a constant companion for you. So where you're at is you're probably feeling like your bills are really, really tight. You have little or no emergency funds. So there's zero margin in where you are. And you're likely carrying high interest debt. So here's a couple of key truths I want you to understand. Survival isn't failure. It's where millions of Americans live right now. I don't know if you realize, but 70% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. That includes People who are making $300,000 to $500,000 a year, 40% of those guys are living paycheck to paycheck. So the gap between survival and stability, so step one and step two, it's mostly a system problem. It's not typically a character problem. So we're going to talk a little bit about systems. And for those of you who are in our community, we've got some inherent systems that you got to take advantage of. And then small, consistent actions compound faster than you think. So there's a lot of people that they overestimate what they can do in a day, but they really underestimate what can be done in a year or 5 years or even 10 years. And this is really where the compound effect takes place. So here's some action steps that you can take this week. So if you're in stage one, which is survival, this is what you got to do this week. So do a dollar audit. Track every single dollar that is spent for the next 7 days. No judgment, just data that you're looking at to see where money is actually going. So use your notes app or some kind of free spreadsheet, or at the end of the night, go look at your credit card statements, your bank statements, or keep a stack of your receipts, whatever you need to do to make sure you have every dollar spent. But make sure you're going through your statements too, because there's automated things that are going through that you're not even realizing are going through, and you're spending that money. So pay attention to that. Create a good plan, okay? A get out of debt plan. So you've got to list every single debt, every balance, what the interest rates are for every single one of those balances, the minimum payments on each one of them, so that you know your full picture. If you are in our community, we have an app called Pocket Nest that is free for you as part of being in our community. If you're not in our community, we have a debt reduction or a cash flow calculator that you can use to put all this information in. You can also write it down, pen and paper. You can also put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And then once you see that, I want you to cut one expense. Identify one recurring expense that you can cut right now, today, and redirect that money to a starter emergency fund, okay? The reason why a lot of people are continuously in debt is because they don't have an emergency fund. So when emergencies arise, instead of just paying it from an emergency fund, they're putting it on a credit card and carrying that interest for months on end because they don't have that money already allocated, and it creates this vicious cycle for them. This is why when people move from stage one to stage 2, 3, 4, and they don't learn those skills, then they go back to stage one. And that's really what happens, is not having that emergency fund. And then open a savings account. Set up a free savings account dedicated to emergencies. Even $5 starts the habit. So whatever you want to do, you got to create some kind of emergency fund so you're not in that same rat race. And your goal is to reach $500 to $1,000 of emergency fund and identify your high interest debt, your highest interest debt. So that's stage one. That's your step one. Now, stage two is stability. Now you've got control over your chaos. You still got a little bit of chaos, but you've got control over the chaos, and you're now building the foundation. You're breathing, your head is above water, but you know one big expense, it could still knock you back. One big wave can have you underwater and drowning all over again. So where you're at, if you're at stage two, is that you've got 1 to 3 months of an emergency fund. Your high interest debt is actually under control, meaning you've got it stabilized and you're paying it off with a plan, and you've got cash flow awareness that's growing. You're aware of where your money is going from day to day. You're not just looking at your bank account and asking yourself, where did all my money go? You know where it's gone. So here's some key truths about where you are. Stability means building a buffer between you and financial emergencies. This is where you can prevent yourself from going from stage two, sliding back to stage one. This is the one skill set that is required for you to not have to slide from stage two back down to stage one. We see it over and over and over again. Not having that emergency fund gets you back to where you are. Debt payoff strategy really matters. So the avalanche saves the most money, but the snowball builds momentum. So the avalanche method is where you pay off the highest interest rates first, but the snowball method is where you pay the lowest balance first. You have to look at how you operate and what is going to be the biggest motivator for you. For some people, they love seeing small credit cards getting closed, zeroing out balances, zeroing out balances. That's a lot more empowering for them than paying off high interest debt. That usually looks like it's taking you longer, but the avalanche method of paying off high interest debt will get you paid off faster. But a lot of people like the snowball method because it feels like they're accomplishing something. But most important, automation is the secret weapon. So set it, forget it, and build it. So you want to automate those. If you're going to do the snowball method, you want to, or the avalanche method, figure out how much you're paying and automate that payment every single month. And if you can do an additional payment, do an additional payment, but automate that payment that you've decided that's going to go towards paying off debt. So here's your action steps. So you've got to do this week. You're going to calculate your 1 month number. What is that? This is your survival costs, okay? This is your bare bones monthly costs. This is rent, food, utilities, transportation. This is not your nails. This is not eyelash extensions. This is not golf rounds. This is none of that stuff. This is none of the extras. This is not your Netflix or Hulu or whatever streaming service. This is bare bones what you need to survive, okay? That's your 1 month number. And then pick your payoff strategy. What works best for you? Is it the avalanche method, doing your high interest credit cards first, or is it the snowball? Whatever it is, just pick it and stay with it. Stay with that. And then you want to automate at least one transfer this month. So set up an automated transfer, whether it's weekly or it's monthly, depending on how you get paid is probably how you're going to choose that. And then transfer that into your emergency fund. If you've done the work from stage 1 to stage 2, or maybe you're in stage 2, but you haven't done the emergency fund, this is where you want to do that. Even $25 a week, that's $1,300 a year. And if you look, when you're doing your calculating your 1 month number, you're probably seeing where you're wasting $25 a week on things that don't really serve you, okay? Then you want to score yourself. How stable are you? Because this is going to help you distinguish how vulnerable you are from moving from stage 2, sliding back down to stage 1. So you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you on your emergency fund? 6 to 12 months, whatever it is that you're needing. What about your debt control? Where are you on that? How in control is your debt? Are you just maintaining where you're not increasing debt, or are you actually paying down debt? And are you paying down debt with any kind of movement or momentum? That's what you want to look at. And then how aware are you on your cash flow, on what money is going out? And then set some 90-day targets, whatever that is. Set a target for how much debt you're going to pay off. Set a target for how much money you want to have in your emergency fund. Set those targets so that you know where you're going. So here's your goal for stage 2 is you're going to have 1 to 3 months of expenses saved plus your high interest debt on a structured payoff plan. So very, very important that you actually have a good plan, a get out of debt plan that is structured. All right, now this is where a lot of people are really striving to get to is security. Because most people are, remember what I said, most people are still at stage 1. That's where people are. Security is where your money has your back. This is where you are. You have 6 to 12 months emergency fund. Savings and investing is automated and your financial foundation is solid. So you never have unexpected expenses, no longer feel like emergencies. They don't feel like doom and gloom. They're just expenses. And here's kind of where you are. Security is when your money starts working for you, not just surviving with you, okay? Your money is actually going to work, bringing you more money. And the 6 to 12 months of reserves, it changes how you handle job loss. It changes how you handle medical events. It even changes how you view financial opportunities. So you see things differently when you've got 6 to 12 months of reserves saved. And this is where investing becomes non-negotiable. It's not a good idea. It is a necessity. If you want to move from stage 3 to stage 4, you must be intentionally investing your money and having it go to work for you. So here's some action steps. If you're here, you want to set your full target, calculate your exact 6-month and 12-month emergency fund targets, and post them where you can see it daily. So the reason why we did the 1 month number is so you have your number you need for 6 to 12 months. This is without all the fluff. This is like your necessities. And then you want to automate your investing. You want to set up or increase the recurring contribution to your 401k, your IRA, or your brokerage account. Even adding another 1% makes a huge difference over time. So you got to put that 1% to work, 1% a month, do it a next month, because what you're experiencing when you're investing money is compounding interest. That means your money goes to work, grabs more friends, makes you more money, and all of that money goes to work, grabs more friends, makes more money. All that money goes to work, grabs more friends, makes more money. And then there's a snowball effect with your money, okay? And then you want to build your security stack. So once you've got finances under control, debt under control, you're investing regularly, you want to make sure you have your security, your financial security, which is your emergency fund. You've got life insurance if anything were to happen to you. You might want to also check to see if there's any riders in there if you're incapacitated. So not just if you have life insurance if you pass, but life insurance if you're unable to work because you're not quite yet where you can be job optional. You're not there yet. Make sure your beneficiaries are updated. So one of the things a lot of people don't realize is they're listing, whoever's listed as their beneficiary on their will trumps whatever is listed on, whatever beneficiary is listed on their life insurance trumps the beneficiary listed on their will. So whatever is on your life insurance, whoever is on your life insurance, that is who is going to be the beneficiary of your life insurance. No matter if you had that listed 20 years ago and you just rewrote your will last week, whoever is listed on the life insurance is going to be the beneficiary. So make sure you have that updated. And then you have a basic will in place. Not just about what your desires are and where things are going, but also where things are not going. So if there's some specific people or places or organizations you don't want your money or your things going, you need to list that in your will as well and communicate that to your family. And then you want to start paying attention to your net worth. So most people, when they're looking at finances, they're only focused on one number, which is income. Wealthy people don't even focus on income. They focus on two things. They focus on cash flow, how much cash flow is generated from their investments and their real estate, and their net worth, how much their net worth is growing year over year. And that's the reason why we focus on real estate investing, and we have our community and Investor Next Door Club focus on real estate investing, because that creates cash flow and increases your net worth. So use our net worth calculator as a baseline. If you're in our community, you can use Pocket Nest to manage and track your net worth. But if you're not, we have a free net worth calculator that you can use. And then you can't grow what you're not measuring. You know, what you expect, you've got to inspect. So you've got to keep track of your net worth. So your goal here at this stage is to have 6 to 12 months in reserves, and you're investing consistently. So one of the ways that we help people invest is we help people invest in real estate and have real ownership of real estate with as little as $3,000. So what that does is it actually gives you access to more of the tax code. So if you want more information about that, you know, we're going to share with you a little bit about that. Now, stage 4 is where this really starts to become fun. Now you're at flexibility. This is where you work because you want to, because your portfolio covers your basic living needs. You've got, right now, if you're at stage 4, you've got a strong savings rate, you're growing your nest egg, and downshifting work is now possible. So instead of working 80 hours a week, you could downgrade that to 60 or 50 or 40. You have options now, and you're starting to feel like work is a choice. It's not a requirement. So here in this stage, you've got incredible flexibility, and this is where math really starts working in your favor because of what I talked about with the compound interest. And every 1% increase in savings rate accelerates your work optional date significantly, okay? Passive income streams planted in this phase are starting to compound into independence later. So really important that you do this. So this is your action step. If you're here, if this is where you're really starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, where you really can see true freedom of being able to quit your job. So you want to calculate your work optional date, whatever that is. So at your current savings rate, when does work become optional? Run the numbers and let that math motivate you. If you really want to get out of your job or you want to do something different, maybe you want to work, but you just don't want to do what you're doing. And the only reason why you're doing that is because you need the whole paycheck. Well, now's where you start to think, maybe I don't need the whole paycheck. Maybe I could live off of 75% or 50% of what I make. And if that's the case, now your options and what you can do is dramatically increased. Now you have options to do things that you're passionate about, what you love, what lights your soul on fire, what makes your heart sing. Then you want to increase your savings rate 1 to 3%. So find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more percentage points to redirect to your savings, your investments this month. So small moves make big impact. So look and see also, what do you want to invest in? Map out your income streams. Figure out where you want to have active income, where you want to have passive income. And one thing I want to add is where you can have residual income that you get paid over and over again on work you do once. And you want to identify the gap between where you are and where you need to be and what can help close that gap. So for those of you are in our community, or those of you even looking at our community, we've got a great affiliate program that can help you with closing that gap and giving you an additional income stream. And then you want to have a flexibility vision, which means you want to really paint a picture for yourself of what does life look like if you really are job optional, if you really are having your investments cover your basic expenses. What would you do with your time? What does your family look like? Where would you be traveling? What would you do? And you want to create that vision. Maybe for some of you, you want to create a vision board of what that looks like so you can be motivated by that. So your goal here is you want to have your savings rate at least 20% plus your first passive income stream is actively growing. So you want to have those two things happening at this stage. Now, stage 5, independence. Woohoo, you have made it. Your portfolio pays your bills. It pays your necessities. It pays your living expenses. It pays what you need to survive, which means you don't have to work. Work is now truly optional, and you can have your investor mindset should be fully activated, meaning you're seeing opportunities all over the place. Your money makes money so that you can survive. You don't have to worry about how you're going to pay the bills. And freedom is starting to become reachable for you. So here's the key truths. Your independence number, which is how much you need to live off of, equals your annual basic expenses divided by 0.04%. That's the 4% rule. Real estate, investment clubs, and business income are the fastest path for most people. And this stage requires shifting from earner, not just to owner mentality, but to investor mentality. So you've got to start thinking like an investor. And those of you who are in our community, you know that we do a lot of training on developing an investor mindset, because it is a different way of thinking that you probably weren't born with, but you can be trained to develop. So if you're in this place, and most people are not in this place, which is why you're on this Zoom, then there's action steps that you want to take. And I'm not going to go into all the action steps, but there's action steps that you can take so you can get to stage 6, which is really freedom. This is where you design your life and you're living on your own terms, which means your passive or your portfolio income covers all of your basic needs and your lifestyle. This is where you can travel and you can do your fun things. You can still go out to dinner. You're not like buying yachts or anything like that, but you're comfortable. You're living off of your investments. And this is living the life you want, not just survival, not just covering your expenses. This is being able to go to dinner and going to the theater if that's what you like, and going to movies and having being able to travel and have vacations. This is like real freedom. And your freedom number is going to be bigger than the independence number, because being independent just means your job independent of your job. But freedom is where you really get to live large. Okay. Here is where asset protection and estate planning basics become really, really critical. I actually think it actually becomes critical before this. And one of the things that we start to teach in our community is all the stages, all the different types of asset protection as you start to grow your portfolio. And then there's different things that you want to do in here. And I'm not going to go through the action steps because most people are not here. But your goal is to have your portfolio income fully covering your desired lifestyle permanently. So you might be traveling, you might have some good lifestyle, but maybe you're not having the lifestyle you want. So you really want to have some goals in place so that you can live really the lifestyle you want. But the ultimate goal is stage 7. That's abundance. This is where you've got beyond enough. This is where you have so much money that you're not preoccupied with money, but not so much money that you're preoccupied with money. This is where you have money far, far, far beyond your needs, and where your focus is on impact and philanthropy and making a difference in your community, in the organizations that you care most about, and really on multi-generational planning, leaving things for your grandkids and your great-grandkids and your great-great-grandkids, and really having something that where your wealth really outlives you and you can start thinking about legacy. And for a lot of people, they think that this is just like pie in the sky stuff, like this is never going to happen for them. But I'm telling you right now, even if you are right now at stage 1, if you are in the right financial community where people are talking about money, and one of the things I want you to understand is if you've not been on one of our Zooms or in one of our in-person meetings before, most people, when it comes to money, they think that moving from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 2 to stage 3 is about making more money. That's not it. Because if the answer was to make more money, more people would be further along in the stages. And people would never slide back to earlier stages. They would just keep climbing up the stages of wealth. And more money is the answer. And most people think that that's the answer, and they try all these different things. They try these side hustles, and they try the gig economy, and they get a second job. They try all these things. And the reason why it doesn't work is because making more money isn't the real issue. The real issue is that people don't realize that money is a game. And because it's a game, there's rules to that game. And most people were never taught the rules. And there are strategies that the wealthy have employed for generations to win the game of money. And if you are not in a financial strategy, in a room where people understand the rules of the game and strategies to win, you are making a huge financial mistake, and you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not setting yourself up to win. So you want to move forward. So not being a part of a financial community, it's really costing you a fortune, because in our community, we have incredible curriculum that's going to teach you about these financial strategies. And when you're ready, we're going to help you invest. And we don't just help you invest when you're ready. We help you to get ready. We help you do what nobody else does, which is getting from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 2 to stage 3. We're going to walk you through that. So if you want more information about Investor Next Door Club and what we do, our next virtual community overview is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We do it every Tuesday right here at inklifestyle.live. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come join us at a live in-person community overview. It's going to be this Thursday. We do this on the first, third, and fifth Thursdays of every month at Serendipity Labs right here in Plano, Texas. So join us. We would love to have you. For those of you who have other questions, reach out to whoever invited you onto this Zoom, or if you're watching the recording, and get the information that you need to make an educated decision. We would love to have you join our community. If you want to get ahead, it is probably the fastest way for you to move from stage 1 all the way to stage 7. So with that, thank you for being here this evening. I hope this was beneficial for you, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye now.